Hello, I'm Pastor Joe, and I want to welcome you to Impacts, where I try to help nurture your faith in, your commitment to, and your relationship with Jesus Christ. So my question to you today is, how do you handle difficult situations? What is it that causes you to worry? How often do you worry? And when you begin to worry, what do you do? How does your stress level go up or down when you get face difficult times? When things get really busy, how do you handle that? You know, the question really isn't, what do you do if you face difficult times? The question is, what do you do when you face difficult times? Because the truth is, whether it's at work, at home, in the community or the world around us, we all face difficult times. And that's what I want us to talk about today. So come on, let's get started. You know, years ago at one of the churches I served, we had an organ recital one afternoon. And what struck me was during the last piece, it was a very difficult piece. You could tell it was fast and there was no resting. So there was no chance for the organist to think or catch his breath or anything. It was just crazy. But as I sat there listening to that piece, and I was in a position I could watch him, his feet and his hands and everything, what I noticed was how relaxed he was. If you turned down the volume, if you plugged your ears and you couldn't hear the music, and you just looked at him, you would think he was sitting back watching TV or something. He was just so relaxed. And I was talking with him after the concert, and I commented on how relaxed he looked, particularly in that last piece, and he said, the harder a piece is, the more relaxed you need to be. Because if you get tense, your fingers and your feet just do things they're not supposed to do. So he had trained himself. And he worked at becoming more relaxed as things got harder. In a similar way, many of you know that I am probably slightly obsessed with bicycles. I love riding bicycles. Now, as a cyclist, I'm not very fast. I'm too heavy to climb very well. And I don't have the endurance to ride 100, 150 miles every day. Other than that, I'm pretty good. But there's a lesson I've learned. And I learned it when we lived in the mountains, and I'd start going up a really steep hill, and that is I had to relax. I would work on relaxing my fingers. I would shake my legs now and then to try to relax. Because what happens is, whether you're riding faster or you're climbing a big hill or something, when your riding gets tough, you tend to tense up, and then you're sending energy to muscles that you're not really using. And so you are wasting energy. So the harder things get, the more relaxed you need to be. Now, those two stories are really good lessons for all of life. When our stress levels rise, when we face difficult things, when we get busy, and when things are just feeling overwhelmed, the tendency is that we begin to hurry, we begin to rush, and we almost start spinning our wheels. But what we really need to do is learn to relax. There's a question and a saying that I love, and my daughter absolutely hates it. But the question is, how does one person eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. So the idea is that no matter how big the problem is, when we take a step back and look at it and we break it down into smaller sections that are going to enable us to accomplish our end goal, then we can handle things. It's a great lesson we need to have. You know, there's a psalm. When we turn to Psalm 46, there's some great lessons for us. Psalm 46 begins, God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. So I don't care what it is you're facing. I don't care how busy things are. We need to know that God is our refuge. He is our strength. He is always there. There is never a time that you're separated from God. You may not always feel His presence, but those times when things are difficult and you're not feeling God's presence, trust that He is there. Later on in the Psalm at verse 8 we read, "Come and see what the Lord has done." We're invited to look back at God's faithfulness. What has God done in your life? What has God done in the life in the world and for His people throughout history? See, we are invited to look back at what God has done so that we can better trust God now in our present. And then my favorite part, verse 10, "Be still and know that I am God." Take a step back from life and know and trust that God is there. You know, right now it's a pretty day, but here in North Carolina and along the coast of the Carolinas, we are preparing and making preparations and getting ready for a possible hurricane. And that means there is a lot to do. But one of the things we need to do is take a step back and relax. And I don't mean that to say that we need to just sit back and don't do anything. But rather than getting too frenzied and too stressed, take a step back. God is with us. That doesn't mean the hurricane's going to miss us. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be some difficult times, but it just means that we're not alone. We need to take a step back. Think of what all that needs to be done. I don't care if we're talking about a storm that is in the form of a hurricane, a storm in the form of health crisis, a storm in busy workloads. Whatever the storm of your life may be, take a step back. Trust and know that God is good. Hear the words of the psalmist. Know that God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. Then be still and know that I am God. Know that He is God. He is faithful. He is strong, and He is in control. So here's my challenge to you. Take a step back. Take a deep breath in life. Relax and trust God. God then in your prayers and everything will lead you in those things you need to do. Again, to be at peace, to step back doesn't mean we don't do anything. It just means we need to not get stressed. We need to relax so that we can better do those things that God is calling us to do. Well, look, I thank you for joining me for this installment of Impacts. I hope that you have found it helpful. I encourage you to like it, to hit like. I encourage you to share it with others. I also want to invite you to join my YouTube channel if you haven't already. There's a little place you can hit subscribe. There you can also hit the bell icon. You'll get notified of any new videos that I release or when I post them. Well, look, thank you for joining me this week. I hope that you'll join me next week for the next installment of Impacts. And until then, I pray that God will be with you.